Hi, welcome to Preservation Pantry. I'm your host, KT O'Keefe, and I am here today at the Cornell Cooperative Extension kitchen. And you saw a little bit of this on the first show. So this is just a nice, let me just quickly go through it one more time. It's the Western New York Food Incubator, and it's a complete commercial kitchen that you can rent out to process foods. That even means if you want to process it for commercial sale. So we have a whole staff here of people willing to help you learn preservation and process your foods safely and also get your products to the shelf. So there's a lot of info here. Cornell Cooperative Extension, as most of you may know it from its animal husbandry programs, it is not just for farmers, it's for all families. So today we're going to be talking about the water bath method of canning, and we're going to talk about raw pack diced tomatoes and hot pack applesauce. I am going to talk you through the basics as I cut and pack our jars. I'm also going to add a few flavor notes into my jars as I use diced tomatoes, not half or whole tomatoes, most often for my sauces and soups and stews, everything. So specific recipes that you can eliminate those if you do not, if they're not your taste, basically. So for water bath canning, the method is probably the most well-known. Most people grew up seeing the blue canner that your grandma used or your mom used, and every fall that canner would come out and they would get to work doing tomatoes, pickles, peaches, all kinds of things. Whatever's being harvested goes right into the preservation. It's the most popular and the most accessible method, and it extends the shelf life of your foods as they are harvested. And there's the most amount of knowledge behind it, I think, because it has been so long. There are other types of canning with pressure cookers, and we will get into that on the next show. Basically, it involves submerging filled, sealed jars of food in a boiling water to create a vacuum seal. It creates an anaerobic, airless environment in which botulinum does not grow. So that's what you want to do, is you want to eliminate that through the high temperatures, and so it kills molds and yeast and bacteria that can cause spoilage. Because you go to all this work and all this expense to get your tomatoes, apples, peaches, you want to make sure that it's properly preserved so it can sit on the shelf up to a year. So you can have these in your pantry at home for a year. And that's what our goal is to get you creating your own family pantry. Canning jars, I use ball mason jars. The lids are a 2-piece lid system with a ring and a lid. So I already went ahead and sterilized our lids and our rings. You can see this is how it goes. I do not reuse lids because I don't want to bother going through the processing time and finding out there was a little mark on a lid that I didn't know. They're not that expensive, so I save my rings. If my rings get dented, they're showing any signs of rust or anything, I toss those too, because I don't want to go to all that work and then not have a good seal. You need a large pot, as you can see, our basic blue canner enamel pot. And it needs to be deep enough to cover the jars at least 1 to 2 inches with 1 to 2 inches of water. Canners must be flat on the bottom for electric stoves and rigid for gas. You can actually use a flat bottom one on a gas as well, but definitely on your electric, especially if you have a glass top, you want to be very, very careful of that. You're going to need a jar lifter, one of these babies, because I just sterilized these jars here. I put them in the bath canner and I sterilize them to get them all nice and clean and safe. And you need this to lift it out as well when you take them out after processing them. So this is a jar lifter. It has safe handles. You're also going to need a funnel. This helps fill the jars. And you're going to need a bubbler. We call this the bubbler, or it also measures the headspace on the top like this. So this is very important. I actually got this whole little kit for $18. It's a very useful kit. Everything comes together. This picks up your lids like so. And that's nice when they're in hot water. And it comes with a couple other things like tongs that you may use down the road. So it's a very nice kit for that amount of money. To get you, also don't forget nice kitchen towels, because you're gonna want kitchen towels to lay down when you take your hot cans out of the canner. You're gonna not wanna put them right on a smooth surface. You're gonna wanna lay a towel down. So it's nice to have lots of those. I get the basic bar towels and I use them all the time. So to prepare everything, like I said, we went through, I sterilized everything, sterilized your lids and your rings. We're going to follow a recipe that has the proper acidity levels, and you can check that on your Cornell Cooperative Extension website or the USDA home canning site or the National Center for Home Food Preservation. All of those have great recipes. I mean, they're a huge resource. So if you have any questions, go to those websites. They will be posted down below on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. So you can check with them, pull up a secure recipe. A lot of people want to do the recipes that they know from their grandma and grandpa, and unfortunately, a lot of them are not tested. So the recipe that you pull up from these sites will be tested. So you'll be safe and secure in processing those. When we fill the jars, we're going to make sure that we just kind of scoop that all in there like so. And we're going to do that very shortly. One of the things that I learned with doing my tomatoes is I use plum tomatoes because I like them because they're nice and meaty. But what you want to do first is you want to kind of blanch them. So if you take and you cut a little X in the bottom and throw them in boiling water for 3 to 60 seconds, okay? It's not long. You'll see the skin, okay? Then you know, and sometimes you'll see it almost looks like pruning, like when your hands get pruny, you'll see that with the skin. You know it's done. You pop that out, and it's much easier to peel them than like this is really hard. Another tip I will tell you, when you peel all of your tomatoes and you have all the skins and the cores, it's nice to throw them in your dehydrator. Instead of just grind it in the mill, throw it in your dehydrator, and then what you get is this nice tomato flakes. These are great to add to stews, chilies. It gives it that little extra pop. So you don't waste anything. Try to make the most of every investment that you make in your kitchen. So once you have them all peeled and you have them diced, I'm going to, I like a little bit of garlic in mine. So I'm going to break this up. I'm going to add a little clove of garlic in each one of my cans. Now, the garlic and the tomato are both low acid, and that's why it's okay. You don't want to just add anything to your recipes. That's why it's important to check what's safe to put in them before you just go throwing things in there. I don't suggest doing your herbs and spices unless you're doing a sauce, which then you would pressure can it. You wouldn't water bath it. So there's your big difference, because that would push it into a level where you have different characters in it and each one needs something different. So to safely process that, you would definitely have to go to a pressure canner. But here today, this is what we're doing. We're going to take this. Now, this is just raw pack. So we've skinned them. I've taken some of the core. I'm not crazy about the cores not being in there. It doesn't bother me. It's just part of the tomato, and to me, it just gives it more flavor. So we're going to pack these in here like this. Very simply. And then what I like to do is make sure that you crush this so that you break up all of the really nice parts of the garlic and get that flavor going through everything. If you just throw the clove in there, you get some flavor, but not as much. Now, with the tomatoes, you can add a little bit of salt. And because it's low acid, you want to add a little acid. Now, you can use lemon juice, or this is what I use, citric acid, because I don't like a lemon flavor in with my tomatoes. So it's just a quart, because these are pints, it's just a quarter of a teaspoon of this in there. So just a little bit right in there. I'm going to put that in there. And I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. And you have to use a pickling salt or a kosher salt. So just a teeny bit of that. I use kosher salt. And I'm going to leave that out because we got a lot more to do. But this is my handy dandy weapon. Oh. And this helps me get it right down in there. Get it packed good and solid. I think I'm going to put a little bit more in there because you can see the headspace that's a little bit too much headspace. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more tomato in there. Not too much juice. I think I got plenty of juice. I like doing the raw pack, to be honest. I actually go through a lot of diced tomatoes. So for me, doing this method really works nicely. This is my bubbler. And with the bubbler, you're going to take and you're going to go along the sides. Make sure that you got rid of all the air pockets. Okay. You're going to go all the way around. Squeeze them out. There you go. You're going to measure your headspace. And I like to bring it right up to the edge. So you have to check your recipe for whatever you're canning and make sure you know what the headspace is. It's usually either like a ½ inch. Some things you can go a �1/4 of an inch. So you want to make sure that you're checking your recipe. Then you're going to take your towel. Oh, here's my towel. I'm looking for my towel and it's right here. You're going to take a clean towel and you're going to go along the edge. You want to make sure that that's nice and clean. You don't want any spillage or anything because that could prevent your seal. Very nice. We're going to pop this in here like this. And then when you put your ring on, you don't want to tighten it completely. You want to just do it finger tight, okay? Just like that. Just a little bit taut. And we're going to go through real quickly and get these other ones filled. If you can before, if you want to mention below your favorite recipes, if you have any questions along the way, please post them. We'll try to get them answered. Like I said, we have a lot of resources here at Cornell. We have Jen and Amanda, and we're going to show you some clips from our last preservation class, master preservation class. And you can see us all in the kitchen, working away on different recipes. Now, the Master Food Preservation class is really for those interested in teaching. And it's also helpful if you just do a lot of preservation because it covers so many different avenues: dehydrating, fermenting, pickling. You can do dry curing, smoking. I mean, it really covers everything for you. But if you just want to take a class here and there, there's also individual classes. You could pick jam, jelly. They do the pickle class, which is fun. And there's going to be more and more of them because we're picking up the pace here now with this wonderful kitchen. One thing I'd like to talk about real quickly too is just the basics of kitchen etiquette. When you're in your kitchen and you're working, you want to make sure your surface is always clean. You also want to make sure your hands are washed. If you have to pick something up that maybe fell or something, make sure you go back and wash your hands again, okay? You want to make sure that you have the least amount of contamination you can possibly have. I feel like this is just a little bit too much juice. These tomatoes I got are really juicy. The last ones I did were a little bit more dry. So I'm measuring the head space. I like the head space where it's at. I'm going to just wipe this again. Pop the lid on. Oops. There we go. And finger tight. If you sign up for the Master Food Preservation class, one of the things that is nice about that is you do 40 hours of volunteer work, and then you can go out into the community and teach classes yourself. So you're passing it on to other generations, which to me that's the whole idea of doing this. It's more like a family heritage, just, pass it down from generation to generation. And nowadays, a lot of young people don't have that same kind of support. So if you can step in there, you can be that support for them. And you can get them preserving for their families. The other nice thing about food preservation is that you really have control over all the different preservatives that are in every recipe that you're making at home. You have control. There's no dyes. You can get organic, like produce at the farmer's market, and a lot of places carry organic now, so it's not that difficult to get hold of. But you know what's going into your food. And with little ones, I think that's really nice. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk a little bit when we do the applesauce, the hot pack. We're going to talk a little bit about making natural leathers for them. You know how kids like those fruit roll-ups? Yeah. So we need a little bit more in here. Got a lot of juice this time. Measure my head space, use the bubbler. It's funny when you use the bubbler, it does kind of bring it down a little bit, so you really have to check your head space again. Just give this a little bit more. We finished up, the course was 6 weeks in May and June. And so we just finished that up and it was fun. We had a great time. It's so much fun. Sometimes randomly we have a bad batch. That happens to the best of them. So things do happen. Don't be totally discouraged if you do process something and it doesn't exactly come out the way that you intended. I don't like the amount of juice this has in it. I want a little bit more headspace. There we go. That'll do it. Now it's nice and packed in there. Yep. I'm gonna wipe this off. Now I gotta wipe off the whole jar. There we go. So I did enough to just do 4 cans just to give you the idea. Normally what I like to do is I like to do 7. I like my diced tomatoes in pints because that's usually how I use them by recipe. But so you do, for a pint, you do 1.5 to 2 pounds of tomatoes per pint. So when figuring that out, that's the number you use. And if you're going to do a quart, you're just going to really double that, and that should do it for you. And we should have one more here. We should be good to get these over to the canner. I'm trying to go a little quicker for you. We're getting down to the last tomatoes. I hope I figured this out. It looks like I did. I wanted 4 cans. It looks like I'm going to have 4 cans. Woo-woo! It's better than the last time I did this. Last time I had way too many. There we go. Put this last guy in there. A little bit of the citric acid. Some people do want to use a more, for some reason they're a little bit nervous with citric acid. Doesn't bother me because it's kind of a natural byproduct. So if you do feel that way, like I said, you can always use just lemon juice. I'm putting very little salt because I like to salt my foods as I go. I don't like to pre-salt them because it depends on what I'm making. And I don't want it to end up overly salty. So, there we go. We're just going to push this down in there. Look at that. Woo-woo! 4 exactly. I'm a happy girl. Actually, I think I need a little bit more tomato for this one. So I'm going to real quick peel this up, throw it in there. For those of you that are Bills fans, you're envious right now, aren't you? If you're not a Bills fan, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should reconsider that. My family's We're just outside of Buffalo, so we're really big Bills fans out this way, which makes it a real fun fall, that's for sure. Sometimes not so much, but sometimes it's just a frustrating fall. But we always get together and we have like chili. This is what I'll probably use these diced tomatoes for mostly, is chili, stews. I also use it for my pasta recipes because I also use it for my gumbo. I use 1 can, just 1 can of diced tomatoes in my gumbo, so I like that. We're going to throw a little bit more in there, and then we're off to the canner. Some of the things you'll see from the video of the class is how we break up into little groups, and we take on different, each group has a different recipe and a different form of canning. So we'll use the steam canner, we'll use water bath, we'll use pressure canning. So it's really nice. There's usually 3 groups, and that's kind of how we break it up. And it works really well. We really, there, now we're perfect. Look at that, just a half a tomato off. I'm gonna wipe this down. Now when you put these into the water canner, you want to make sure that they don't tip. Sometimes I have a real problem with that. So try to be gentle and careful. Try to make sure that inside your water bath canner, there's a rack, that you're not hitting the actual rack, because I've done that too. I'm trying to give you tips on things that I've done wrong. How's that? So if you hang on 1 more minute, we're gonna meet you over at the water bath, and we're gonna put these in and get them started. Here's a clip from our last preservation masterclass. You'll love it. Welcome back to Preservation Pantry here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. In the process of processing raw packed tomatoes. So I had spoken to you a little bit about raw pack and hot pack. Raw pack is where you're not heating up like a sauce or something like that. It's just going directly into the can. Hot pack is where you're cooking like an applesauce or maybe a salsa, something like that. So in each instance, you process it a little bit different. The raw pack is nice because it's a quicker preparation, and it's packing it freshly. It's unheated food, so it's tight in the jar. It's covered with a little boiling liquid. And your canner temp should be at 140 when the time, once the rolling boil starts to build up. And then you want to reach 212. At the time that it hits 212, that's when you start your timer, okay? So we're going to take a minute and we're going to get these cans in the canner so that we can get it to a rolling boil of 212. Then we'll set our timer for 40 minutes for raw pack. Need your jar lifter. One of the things you want to make sure you do is you don't tip it over. So if you disperse the cans kind of equally around the canner, it will work better for you. Have a better chance of not having them tip over. It's nice if you can do a full 7 and everything is all tight in there together. But today, because we just have the 4 for demonstration purposes, we gotta just be very, very careful. I'm gonna move this one in the middle to keep everything from tilting. Then we're going to take, and we're gonna lift this down into here. Very careful and gently. See, it's a good thing I put that one in there. And remember, we want 1 to 2 inches of water over top. And then we want to now watch this. I have my thermometer right inside. So we want to watch for 212. As soon as it hits 212, then we want to start timing for our 40 minutes. So we're going to let that boil up. Right now, we're going to start to take a look at hot pack of applesauce. I have the applesauce on the stove. It's been boiling away. It's ready to be mashed. So you can take a look at that right now. That's what that looks like. It's all been diced up, and there's sugar and cinnamon in there. So we're gonna let that sit for a minute, and then we're gonna mush it up. I'm gonna show you a little trick with peeling your apples, which you will really love. So if you come right over here, here we are. We have this really cool apple peeler. I've had this forever. This locks it down onto your stainless steel or your countertop if you have granite or a hard stone. Even laminate, I've used on laminate. You pop your apple right onto there, and lo and behold, this is one of the saving graces. I love to do apple pie. So this has been my best friend. And you just do that right across. Like I said, it does clamp down onto the counter. Ta-da! And look at that. It's cored and peeled for you. And this was a gala. This is a nice gala. I was having problems with the galas earlier, but that's a really nice one. So then it's already cored and peeled for you, and you've taken care of that step completely. So these are amazing. I highly suggest them to make your life much easier. So once you have them diced all up, and they're evenly, because I've used the peeler, they're all the same thickness. So that's nice because they cook better that way. I use this fresh fruit. I put a little bit of fresh fruit in there, so it keeps it from turning really brown. And I use only pure cane sugar. That's my preference. I just like to minimize whatever I can preservative-wise. And white sugar is bleached. Pure cane sugar isn't. And then a nice cinnamon. You can use cinnamon sticks. Some people use cinnamon sticks and take them right out. I go through a lot of cinnamon because my family likes it. The same thing with the tomatoes. When you have extra applesauce, you can also load that in your dehydrator and make your fruit leathers. The last time we did applesauce, we did blueberries and applesauce and regular applesauce. And this is how it comes out. And the kids have a nice natural snack. So nothing goes to waste. If you made too much applesauce up, you can always find something to do with it if there aren't enough people to eat it. This is also one of my new found fun tools. I got this because I'm Irish, okay? We do a lot of potatoes. This baby does both. You know, a lot of people will have two mashers. They'll have this type and this type. This is all in one, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I'm going to run over and I'm going to mash up some applesauce. All right. So here we go. They've been cooking down. They're nice and soft. And look at that. Look at how easy that is. You are going to love this. I mean, you could use an immersion blender if you have one, but I tend to feel like that makes it a little bit too thin. I like more of a chunkier style. There we go. Look at that. Yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. The last time I did applesauce, I thought I did too much and I needed my cans. And lo and behold, my family confiscated my applesauce and I'm down to 1 jar now from the last batch that I did. But see how nice it is? I like that consistency to my applesauce. It feels just a little bit more, I don't know, hearty and homey, not so processed. But it's all in your taste. You can use your immersion blender if you like. So this is hot. We're going to take this off of here. These are silicone, so they don't get hot. I'm going to take these off of here, bring it right over to here. I'm going to swap the jars. Put this on the stainless. And then we can get filling those. Real quickly, I'm going to move our water bath over to the other spot because this one just doesn't seem to want to get into a rolling boil for some reason. So I'm going to cook this up here. Or not. There we go. There we go. Let's see if we can get that really rolling. We want to watch it. We want it up to 212 for the tomatoes. Now, I brought a couple extra jars. I always sterilize a few extra jars just in case we go a little bit over. I'm going to take this out of here. Alrighty. Take this like this. Now all of our things are in here. We have the fresh fruit in here, the sugar, and the cinnamon. They're already in here, so you don't have to add anything to this. I'm just gonna fill it. Fill your jars up. Now your applesauce can go 1/4 of an inch away from the top. So we're right there. We're right in a good spot with that one. And when you get these in the bath, these are only going to process for 15 minutes once you get them up to boil, rolling boil. You also have to check your altitude, like wherever you live. We're at 600. If you're over 1,000, those things have to be, your timing has to be adjusted for that. So don't forget that. But on the average here in Western New York, we're in Bill's country, we're good. We might only have 3 of these jars. Maybe with a little bit extra. But like I said, if you have a little bit extra, if it doesn't get eaten, you can always throw it in the dehydrator. Which that's kind of what's nice about doing your tomatoes and your applesauce on the same time, because you can do one level of your tomatoes after you ground your skins and your cores, it makes kind of a paste. And then on another layer, you can add your apple sauce for leathers. Let's see how we go. Oh, we're a little bit over on that. Let's see if we get any bubbles out. Checking our bubbles. Might have to take a little bit out of that one. Wow. I got this rate exactly down to 3. You should have a little spoon here. Next time I'll remember a little spoon. Let's adjust those. Yeah. That's a little better. Getting the air bubbles out. Yay. So I was telling you about the master preservation class. I want to suggest that if you live in an area where there's a local farmer's market and you can set up a table and teach there, things like that. Those are all the nice things that you can do about taking the course and being able to go into the community, interact with your neighbors and your friends, and get them all preserving. That looks good. Thank goodness I have this little teaspoon. Our next show is going to be, on our first show we got you started with the ginger bug, sourdough starter, and what was the other one? Let's see. Sourdough, ginger bug. I gotta think for a minute. I'm getting old. I became a great grandma since we last seen each other. So I am getting older. But we're going to go through, we're going to do sourdough, and we're going to go back through our ginger bug and make some fermented soda, all natural soda for the kids, for your kiddos. I really suggest if you've got grandkids or small kiddos that you really tune into that show, because getting them away from the sodas that you see in the markets with all the preservatives, and it's just so much better, and it's a fun process for them because they get to make a soda they really, really like. So that's fun. Okay, these are all cleaned up. They're all about 1/4 of an inch headspace. There we go. We're going to pop their lids on, and then we're going to check and see how our tomatoes are going. These go on finger tight again. Whoops, already got that one. Need a ring. We need a ring. You guys don't want to hear me sing. I don't think Carl wants to hear me sing either. He's a musician. He's not going to like it. Right, Carl? Trust me. Usually if the singer says they're bad, they're bad. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to check on our process for the tomatoes, and hopefully we can get going on this applesauce. We're back. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. So our processing has stopped, but now we have to wait 5 more minutes for it to cool down. So when you're timing your foods, like whatever you want to can, or if you want to use a pressure cooker, it's nice to kind of figure out a schedule where maybe you can do 2 things at one time, or you can, I don't know, sit and eat the product. I don't know. The tomatoes are really, really yummy. A lot of the time, especially when you're pressure canning, some of the pressure canning is 85 minutes. If you're in the kitchen and you're tied to the kitchen, my idea is try to make the most of that time and align it with something. Dehydrating you're mostly going to do overnight, so that's not going to be a good fit, but you could probably do some freezer foods and pack those up for the rest of the week. You can break down and make meals for the rest of the week so that you're being productive the whole time that you're canning. There's so many things that you're going to find to do, but what we're going to do real quickly is talk a little bit about the storage. So when these come out of the canner, you're going to wait until they cool. Oh, yay! There we are. So we can actually take them out of the canner now. Yay. Let me finish my thought though before I forget it. You need to let them cool. You're going to set them on a towel and you're going to let them cool, and then you have to label them. These are wash-off labels that came with the kit that I was telling you about. There's other labels that you can pick up at anyone that carries canning supplies. So put your date and year, because remember, they're shelf stable for 1 year. So you want to make sure that you don't forget to do that. And I am going to put a link down below on this little canning kit because it was a really good value and it had a lot of great things like this that we need to take our cans out. So meet me over at the stove. Here we are. We've got our tomatoes are all done. Look at them. They look really good. Not a lot of water at the bottom. That's nice. I like mine really nice and full. So I'm just going to set them aside over here. Remember not to tilt them. Leave the water right on the top. It's going to evaporate real quickly. There we go. There's number 2. Oh, one popped already. That's good. We got a good seal on that one. And you can see they're really nice and tight. No big air bubbles. And so then we're going to transfer them over to a towel. We need to space them 2 inches apart. Don't put them right on top of each other. Like I said, don't worry about that water. It's going to evaporate real quickly. Remember, we did them 40 minutes. If you're doing quarts, it's 45 minutes. But all of that's in the recipes. We're going to put all the times and everything right on the page. So you're going to let these sit for 12 to 24 hours without touching them, just on a towel. And there you go. There's your tomatoes. They're all set for you. So I want to talk a little bit more about when we get them all cooled down, we have them labeled, right? So then we're going to go to storage. So you want to store them in a cool, dark place. Some place where, you know, they're not going to be in the middle of the elements, where it's not going to be a big drop in temperature, or it's not going to get real hot. You want a nice, cool, dark place. And if you store that in there, you'll have these on the shelf for an entire year. That means you'll have the supplies that you need on those rush days where you need to throw together a nutritious dinner for yourself or the family. You can go right to your pantry, grab a protein, some veggies, and whip something together real quickly. That's what our hope is for you, to give you options to save money by buying bulk produce and processing it so that you have that backup, especially through the winter months too, because it's so fresh. It really is. You'll really enjoy the fact that you took the time to do this when you're in the midwinter and all the produce has been held in cold storage and you got a nice fresh raw packed tomato to start out any of your bases with. That is our raw packer, like I said, cold pack. I kind of was making a little fun thing on it, cold pack, hot pack, but it's basically raw. Most raw vegetables, though, you're going to want to do in a pressure canner. And if you do tomato sauces, that needs to be in a pressure canner as well. So we're going to get to pressure canning, and we're going to get to a lot of other fun topics for you. Those are the basics of the water bath kit. Oh, did you hear that? One sealed already. Yay! And you're not going to tighten the top yet. Just let them kind of sit and do what they have to do. And as a matter of fact, once they're completely sealed, you can remove the rings once they've cooled completely. So you're all set there. You can reuse your rings for other cans. You don't need as many rings as you do cans and lids, obviously. I want to refer you back again to the USDA National Center for Home Preservation. There goes another one. Their website, it's homefoodpreservation.com. Your local cooperative extension, you can check their website as well. And you can also check the Ball Blue Book. That is kind of a tried true. They have test kitchens and they test all of their recipes. I want to make sure that you go to those and get reliable recipes. So we're going to take a break and we're going to check on our applesauce, pork chops and applesauce with these Gala apples. I forgot to tell you, when I do my apples, my secret is to not having to use so much sugar is to make sure that I use a balance of tart and sweet. Not something that's real watery like a Honeycrisp, but a Gala with an Empire, which is what I use today. Or if you like it a little tartar, maybe a Gala with a Macintosh. That way you can kind of figure out what your family really enjoys and you can kind of cut back on the sugar because you have the natural sweetness of the apple. We're going to check on our applesauce and we'll be right back. So we're back and we had to be able to process the applesauce. Applesauce is only a 15-minute processing time, but you have to let the canner cool off because we're doing tomatoes and applesauce in the same day. Let it come back down to temp. Then we have to put our jars in, bring it back up to boil, and start a 15-minute timing on these. So now this section of the applesauce is done. So I'm going to pull these out for you. Remember, same thing, do not tilt your cans. What I'm going to do is just walk these right over to here. Doesn't matter if there is water on the top, it's all going to evaporate just like it did with the tomatoes. The best time really to do any of this is during harvest season because you get a better price on your produce. But this will help prepare you. You can do some small batches to get your feet under you and be able to run with it. Do some test batches. And then when it is harvest time, you can get bushels of tomatoes. That's going to be your best buy. And it probably seems like it's going to be overwhelming and a lot, but you'll be surprised because you can do some quarts as well. And once we get into pressure canning, you can do sauces. So you'll go through that bushel of tomatoes. The apples, same thing. In the fall, it's apple season. And it's nice too to do it in the fall because it's cooler. It kind of gives you that home feel. And you can also slip in a few apple pies because you got, You can do apple butters. You can do apple jelly. You can also do apple slices. So you've got a lot of options. If you buy a bushel, you don't have to just do applesauce. For today, I wanted to demonstrate the hot pack, which was cooking the apples and having a hot sauce that's going into the canning jar. And this was, of course, our tomatoes that were raw pack or cold pack, because you're not heating the tomatoes. So there's the difference. What you might see is a better color wise if you do the raw pack. I think they stay a little brighter, especially if you put the citric acid in there. I find that that makes them kind of bright and happy. But that's really all there is to it. It's very simple. And we're going to show you some shots periodically from the different classes. Hopefully we'll get in and tape some more so that you don't feel intimidated. I want you to, just jump in there. Get hold of Amanda Henning at the Cornell Cooperative Extension here in Niagara County and schedule with the next class. And once you get into it, there'll be no holding you back. You'll be crazy. Kind of like I was when I started fermenting kombucha. It became an obsession. And that's what we hope. This becomes an obsession because you realize how much better you're feeding your family and yourself. And if you're a single person and you're living alone, this is also a nice way for you to have home cooked meals and not eat out eating processed foods and things like that. You'll have some nice fresh foods. And we all have Sunday nights, except for when it's football season here in Buffalo, that we can dedicate to doing some preserving. So I am looking forward to the shows ahead. Our next show, we're going to be revisiting our sourdough. We're going to have a sourdough expert on, so that'll be really fun. We're going to check on our ginger bugs and make some soda. Our sauerkraut is completed and done, so there's no going back for that. We don't have to do anything with that, but I will bring a jar in so that you can see it all completed. What we will also maybe try to fit in is I'm thinking a little bit of freezer jam, because it's strawberry season right now, and if I can get some fresh strawberries and make you some fresh freezer jam, you might want that to go with your sourdough. Just a thought. Or maybe you could do sourdough scones with your discard. That's a whole nother topic for our next show here on Preservation Pantry, helping you eat healthy from field to table.